Welcome to a discussion of our new visual communication judging category, the revised showmanship category. I am Katie Holly, the Artistic Director for Song of Seattle Chorus, lead of Primetime Quartet, and a member of your regional faculty. I'm here to share some discussions I've had with visual and chorus leaders in our organization to dig a little deeper into this rewritten category. Now, there are some wonderful resources on the international website that I want to direct you to for your initial and thorough look at this category. The judging category description is posted, and a video presentation by the task force that actually rewrote the category is available to view. Both are incredibly clear and detailed, so you can easily understand the changes and direction we are headed as a performing organization. My first conversation is with Judy Poske. Judy is our local star, friend, and resource. She's an international queen of harmony with Frenzy Quartet, a member of the Sweet Adelines International faculty, and serves as a Showmanship Now visual communication judge for our competitions. Judy brings an especially deep knowledge to our category as she was part of the Showmanship Category Revision Task Force. Let's listen to Judy's thoughts on our new category. Well, Judy, thank you so much for being with us today and answering some questions, doing a little interview about the visual communication category. I just think it's a wonderful step in the right direction, and I really appreciate that you, as one of the creators and authors on the team, are willing to share some of your thoughts with how this is all going to go. So I just have a couple of questions in this little bit of time. First one really is that I heard in the introductory video that sort of described the overview of the entire thing, that you really were thinking about clarifying and updating the showmanship category into this now visual communication category. So can you speak to that a little bit? I started thinking that this was just sort of an evolution. So I wonder what your view of the evolution is.
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all, Katie. So the name change and the category change, it was brought about by first of all, the task force was asked to take a look at the showmanship category. And part of the motivation for that, I think, was what appeared to be a lot of misunderstanding, I think, out in our Sweet Adeline community at large as to what showmanship judges were rewarding and why it was being rewarded. So there was a lot of, to be blunt, chatter on social media about comments about unity and requiring us each to be clones of each other, and everybody needs to wear red lipstick, and that's what was really important. So it became evident that perhaps we needed to clarify what is actually important, and through that exercise we revisited a lot of the concepts and ideas and came back to the idea that really, truly, what hasn't changed is that it's about how we perform for the audience and how we're able to get across to the audience the music and how we can do that visually. So that was really the big motivation, to clarify and also to make sure that it was inclusive for the entire Sweet Adeline world, so that everybody could feel that they could in fact do this. They can bring themselves to the stage. That was really truly a big part of it as well. And it was helpful having Anna Rosenberg on the task force. She's Swedish, and she shared with us that the word showmanship didn't speak to her. She's, as an international member of this organization, that word doesn't speak to her and to her language, her native language. So, if we're really truly going to be inclusive and be an international organization, we have to be mindful of the words that we use. So we hoped that changing the name to visual communication would be clear and also create room for us to continue to evolve the art form. So that was sort of what was behind it all.
Well, that's great. The evolution and inclusivity, I think, is going to be attractive to keep people in our organization and attract people from the outside to be our audiences. So I think it sounds like it's on the right. And I wonder if you can speak to a little bit of the mindset shift that might have to go on when you shift from really always focusing on what we are doing amongst ourselves as opposed to audience relation with the audience, because that really seems like a big part of this category.
Yeah, well, I mean, thinking about the fact that we are truly doing this, the goal is to communicate the song to the audience. This happens in any genre, any type. If you go to the opera or you go to musical theater or you go to a barbershop show, I mean, ideally the audience is going to be entertained. The audience will feel like the performer's there for them. So we seem to have this disconnect when it comes to competition, that somehow this has become all about, as you say, perfection. And it becomes less about having that authentic, genuine performance for the benefit of the audience and allowing that accessibility of the performance for the audience. So yeah, that shift in mindset, we're still going to competition. We're still getting judged and given written commentary and scores, but hopefully it's viewed as being commentary and a score based on how successful you were as a performer or your ensemble was in creating that connection and having that entertaining experience for the audience. Because again, I think it also is a question of where you are at as far as a level goes. Generally speaking, when we are so focused on technique and getting it right, that if that's the mindset we have, then that is what we're going to see and hear in the audience, right? So shifting the mindset is a big part of it. We need to have the skill, we need to have the technique so that the audience will have a product that will be enjoyable. But we also need to get over ourselves and remember that ultimately we're doing this to have fun, and that needs to be what comes across for the audience.
Right. Oh, that's great. And have you had, just quickly, a real sense of communal buy-in from the judging community within Sweet Adelines, that this is a great way to go?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was interesting because, of course, we haven't been together, and we haven't been getting together to judge. So we've had a couple of Zoom sessions, and the showmanship judges were, brought in on a Zoom session as well, and we shared a new category with everybody. And we honestly didn't know how it was going to be received, and it was overwhelmingly very positively received by the judges in our category.
Good.
I think it will be embraced, and everybody is going to be, learning how to put our heads around the elements and how they've changed. Also, one of the biggest changes for us as judges is that we have done away with the weighting system. So what this means is that under the showmanship category, each song is worth 100 points, and for that 100 points, 70 points of that was meant to be going towards the actual execution of a plan, right? The performance of it. And then 30 was to go towards the preparation, the plan itself, right? So everything you do before hitting stage. And so that weighting, for me personally, it's not like I sat there and thought, I really think I'm going to give them 20 points for their hair, makeup, and their costume. I mean, it just didn't work that way, at least from my perspective.
Right.
So, it's we as an audience take in a performance in more of a global way, we don't necessarily pick it apart. So
Right.
it makes sense for us to get rid of that weighting system and just take the 100 points and, reward how impactful it was on the audience and how much of the actual message and song came out to the audience. It's now 100% per song, period.
Any tips or ideas for us as performers and as groups to bring us in to the new mindset with more grace and open minds than what this might be fearful for some?
Oh, for sure. Well, change is always potentially a scary thing, right?
Yeah.
But if we feel fear around this, it's kind of good because it's causing us to maybe go outside our comfort zones a little bit, and that's always the opportunity for growth. So this is a wonderful time for all of us to put ourselves out there maybe a little bit and trust a little bit more in ourselves, in our abilities, trust more in our ensembles, whether it's quartet or chorus, and with our leadership to also look at different ways of maybe trying to, tackle the beast that is performance. We're yes, again, it's always that struggle of technique versus getting beyond the technique, right? We need to have that technique there, definitely, and work towards that. But my biggest tip would be as soon as possible in the process that we can start to integrate, so that it's not, if we can do away with the separate silos of, okay, we're going to work the plan and work the music, and then now we're going to work on the performance aspect of it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
as long as we continue to compartmentalize like that, we're not doing ourselves any favors, right? And that was true under the former category as well, quite frankly. But I think that now it's, having done away with the waiting from the judging community, hopefully that's clear to message to everybody that what we're valuing is how you put together a plan, how you get everybody on the same page, and how you can then present that to an audience. So if you can start integrating sooner in the process, all the better. And also, right now with Zoom and our inability to be together in person and rehearsing, I think this is a great time for us to really start to take more attentive, pay more attention to what we're doing when we're rehearsing, as far as increasing awareness of how we are connecting with the music. If the idea is for us to have this connection as performers to what we're singing, sometimes people say, well, but I was told to do, X, Y, Z. Well, yeah, but yes, you need to do that, but how can you connect it and make that your own? So that I encourage everybody now to start thinking about wrapping their minds and their hearts around the idea of, we're going to be given a plan, we're going to be given a song, right? And it's our job as performers to take responsibility to bring ourselves to that in the context of the plan.
I love it. It sounds like fun.
It is
Well spent
fun.
with you, Judy. I really, really appreciate your thoughts on this. Before you go, I've got one little getting to know you exercise. It's a rapid fire question period. It's only a minute long, so it won't hurt too bad. These are questions that are related to most of things that we can all relate to. So are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. What is your favorite performance or competition day meal?
Oh, geez. I don't tend to eat a whole lot before going on stage, to be honest, but depending on how early in the contest I'm going to be appearing, but I think I like to have oatmeal in the morning, and definitely lots of coffee. Lots.
Oatmeal and coffee, lots and lots of caffeine. That's great. For you, what is your favorite chorus riser placement? Why?
Oh my gosh. I have to say I like being on the floor. I like being in the front row. I like to move. I've stood in the back row and I feel alone back there. I don't hear the voices behind me. So I love to have the sound behind me and have a sense of, the voices pushing me forward out towards the audience. So I like the front row.
That is not a surprising answer at all. All right, here's a really important
one. I've stood in row except the third row. I've stood in every row except the third row.
That's okay. So you've still got that to go for.
Yeah.
In your career.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. Okay, naps.
Naps.
On contest day. Helpful or wake up cranky?
I don't do it. I just say no to naps. I've never
naps. Okay, flats or heels?
Flats.
Flats. Favorite season of the year and why?
I think fall. I've always been a fan of fall. Changing of the seasons, starting to get cooler. The leaves changing color. Just like it.
And favorite time of day?
Usually late at night because that's when I'm most awake.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
A lot of us, I think, those of us that stay up and tag might have that answer, right? And then your favorite plant or flower?
I'm a fan of tulips, actually.
Ah, almost tulip season.
Exactly, but it's kind of opposite of the season. You would think I would think spring, but
Mhm.
I do like the tulip. I'm a fan of the tulip.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well,
Connor.
oh,
I
that's
still
a beautiful place to go, isn't it?
the Tulip Festival. I've heard
Yeah.
about it for years, so maybe one day. That and the third row.
Yes, we've got that to go for. Tulip Festival in the third row. Well, Judy, thank you so much for your time. It's just really great to see your face and share with the region what you're thinking on this new topic. And I'm sure that we will be seeing you in person very soon.
I sure hope so. Thanks, Katie. Stay happy and healthy, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Next, let's hear from Sue Beck. Sue is a treasure to our region. She has been in multiple quartets and traveled to numerous international contests, both as a quartet member and chorus member. Sue is a co-founder of two of our region's choruses, Pacific Sound and Voices Northwest, and she has shared her directing, coaching, and performing skills in many venues. On the international level, Sue has been on international board, international faculty, served as a showmanship judge, and brought her talent to numerous international task forces. As a recipient of our region's Heart of the Northwest Award, Sue's dry wit and warm smile is always a welcome addition to any gathering. Here she is. So, Sue, thank you for joining me today and discussing the visual communication category. Really, I just want to get your take as a former showmanship judge, many years over, and educational faculty and international faculty. I want to know what you think the whole premise might be and where we might be headed with this new category.
Well, I love the term visual communication to start with, because that is exactly what this is. The other three categories actually define the musical product, and this one defines the visual product, but that doesn't leave them out. It's still, they're all inclusive, just like they've always been. So basically, the biggest difference in my mind is that the language has just changed a little bit. The intent is the same, is to give the musical product to the audience as a gift, rather than what it said in the JCDB before, which was selling the musical product. Interestingly enough, Anna Rosenberg, who was on this task force and is Swedish, said that selling the product has a different connotation in Swedish. So that was part of their consideration for actually changing that language, which I thought was really interesting, because as Americans, we think of that as kind of a positive, wonderful thing, but that's, to them, it's more of like hard sell kind of thing. And that's not where we want to go at all. So visual communication says it like it is. I love the new elements that are involved, like stagecraft and non-singing elements, which include pitch pipe technique and entrance, exit, break, blah, 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 all that stuff. So I'm extremely happy about it. And I think that every former showmanship judge is extremely happy to have a new title as well.
Uh-huh. That's great. What do you think it will carry us toward as an organization?
I think a better understanding of what visual communication really means. When you're up there in a quartet or a chorus, and the ultimate goal has always been to get out of yourself. Stop thinking about people are looking at me and what I'm doing. That's not what this is about. This is about giving a story from your heart to someone else's heart in the audience. Even if you only communicate with one person, that is fabulous and wonderful. And hopefully this language will kind of turn that around to the focus where it's supposed to be, which is out in the audience.
I love that. Audience focused. What do you think the main changes are going to be for regular rehearsal, and what how the focus will change in rehearsal?
Well, I'm hopeful, as always. I think the rehearsal time is usually, at least in my experience, and I have limited experience, I haven't been in 100 courses, but I think most rehearsal experiences that I have had have been focused on vocal production, vocal skills, getting the product together musically, and then doing the choreography too, which you can do together. I don't think that they need to be concerned with things like makeup and costume and all that. Costume, you do need to be concerned with only in as far as it affects the choreography and all that kind of stuff for the sake of this conversation. But I think the vocal skills are still going to be the primary point, synchronization, vowels, all that kind of stuff that we've all been working on forever. And it's going to take a while, I think, after this long stretch for us to get back to where we were when we left off. I think it's going to take a while. I think we need to be patient with ourselves as we regain that and figure out where we were and how to get further.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit, knowing the score sheet as you do, about the 70-30 split between performance and preparation, and now everything's 100%.
Okay, I will speak for myself, but I think I can speak for most other people who have been showmanship judges. When we discussed this, we've had numerous discussions about this online, and the general consensus is that we've not ever thought of it as a 70-30 split when we're actually writing the sheet. So when I'm sitting there, my time has been taken. I thought about this today. My time has been taken more with looking up and getting a general sense of the costume and makeup and all that. And then I have to take the time to make comments about those specific things on the sheet, because those are things that's space that's provided for that. There's not specific space provided for that in the new sheet. So what you have to do is look at it in a more holistic manner. And unless there's something that's really screwy about what's going on, I seriously doubt that people are going to see as many comments about costume or makeup or the plan for choreography than as they did before. And that might be a little bit of a shakeup to begin with. But I think as the understanding increases about what this new category is all about, what this new title to the category is all about, and the purpose is the audience focused presentation, then I think that will make it clear for them what the important parts are. And it also will remove a whole lot of stress from costume chairman, for one thing, because, you know, right. Oh my gosh, costuming 50 people is no easy task for anyone. But so I think the emphasis is slightly skewed in the right direction. So it's more about characterization and physical expression and vocal skills and all of the stuff that really make a performance sing, if you will.
Can you talk a little bit about authenticity and how it enters in and the importance in this new writing?
In my mind, the quartet contest and the chorus contest are different because they open differently. So generally speaking, quartets walk out on the stage and you can get a sense of who they are by the fact how they walk onto the stage. And therein lies the authenticity for me. I can usually tell, and I think most judges can tell, whatever category it is, when a quartet walks out on stage, what level they're going to be singing. Not always, but it's a good key. You kind of know the level of confidence and stage presence and confidence they have about what they're doing. How comfortable are they on the stage? All of that plays in. With the chorus, it's a little bit more difficult because they have a person standing out in front of them, and there may be a curtain that goes up or lights that go on, and so the approach to this is a little bit different. They have to show, in my opinion, my humble opinion, a chorus has to show a lot more energy while standing when the curtain is opening than a quartet does when walking in, when they're expending some energy. So it's a little bit different approach for both. Now I forgot your original question.
Authenticity.
Oh, authenticity. It starts at the edge and ends at the other edge. You have to be convinced of the story you're telling and able to tell it to someone else, and not just in a mirror. I mean, I think that's helpful so you know what you look like when you're doing it. But I think if you can sing a song to someone else and really get inside their heads with the song that you're singing, this message that you're giving them, you'll have a better sense of how authentic this message is. The challenge comes in then from individual to individual to individual, because unity is always going to be an important part of this art form, regardless of the category. And unity plays a part here too, because while each of us may have a bit of a different interpretation of what this song means to them, somehow we have to bring our faces and our minds and our heads and our emotions together to try and tell a unified story to the audience that's out there waiting for it. So that would lead me back to knowing which music to select, what's most appropriate for you. What can you sell well, I don't want to say sell anymore, but what can you present the best and get a message across to the audience the best? That would be truly heartfelt. That's why love songs are so predominant in this art form, I think, is because everybody has experienced love in one form and another, and they can relate to that. So,
right.
And a fun uptune is kind of the same thing. You can get into the rhythm of it and it takes care of itself. So authenticity in both of those ways, emotionally and the intent of the song. The intent of the song is probably way up there.
So the story, and really leading with maybe what story you're trying to tell, and what your chorus is good at, what they resonate with emotionally anyway, because each chorus or quartet kind of has a personality.
Exactly. Everyone, yes, that's exactly.
Now we're going to get to a part where we try to get to know you a little bit more by doing a few rapid fire questions.
Oh my gosh, it's like the Colbert questionnaire.
Yes, just like Colbert questionnaire. I ripped it right off of Late Night.
I love it. I love it.
How that goes.
Well, we've used the Tonight Show. We might as well use him too.
Yeah, exactly. So, are you ready?
I am, I think.
Okay. Favorite performance or competition day meal?
Oh, favorite performance or competition day meal? Probably the most recent that I can remember, which is with Voices Northwest at the Mexican restaurant across the street from the convention center.
That's a great meal after you've sung, and then you get to go across and
have a couple of margaritas
in your makeup and hair. And
yes, exactly.
Fancy dress and comfortable shoes. Yeah. Okay. Favorite chorus riser placement for you, and why?
I'd say left front, left as I'm stage on the stage, left and front.
And why?
You know, interestingly enough, as I think of that, that was the very first place I ever stood on the risers when I competed back in 1973. And my first memory of competing back in 1973 was PLU, or one of those places down south, was that I felt like I was singing all alone. Ever been there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, naps on competition day, helpful or just make you cranky?
Oh, that's good for me. It's definitely good for me, because I don't just nap. I visualize. I take the time to visualize. I may doze off, but I'm still going to visualize, because once competition day opens, I'm in it.
Yeah. Favorite flower or plant?
Yellow rose.
Oh. Now we know you better, and we know your mind a little bit better. So thank you for sharing this part of you with us and helping us understand this category. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely a pleasure. Always good to talk to you.
There was a lot of good information in those discussions. Now, personally, I noticed when I was looking at the two score sheets, previously the 70-30 split actually included two elements on both sides, and it had to do with how you moved around stage: entrance, break, and exit, and choreography. That's a lot of focus on just one part of what you do, moving around stage. Imagine, for instance, if you had a really best friend who knew you liked a particular dish and your favorite ingredient of all time was garlic. So they came over to do you a favor and make you some dinner, and they wanted to make that dish really special to you, so they focused on the garlic. They did only stuff that related to garlic. They really valued the garlic. Once they served you that dish, what would you think about that? How would you feel? Of course, you'd notice the garlic and you'd love it at first. And then pretty soon you want some more depth. You want some more complexity. You want a beginning and a middle and an end to the taste treat of this dish. So putting just one emphasis on one thing doesn't necessarily get you where you want to go as far as a whole experience. The same can be talked about with all of the elements of the visual communication category. Just like you take your ingredients to a sauce or a dish and you do different things with them, you whip them, you boil them, you saute them, you freeze it, you do different things depending on how you want your dish to come out. Well, all of those choices you make about how you're going to treat all of your ingredients, that puts character in your dish. And that leads us to characterization. All the elements of our visual communication category now fit under the umbrella of characterization. Every decision we make about all the choreography, the costuming lights, all the non-singing moments, the visuals of props, makeup, and hair, all must feed and fit under the characterization umbrella so that we can include the story in everything we do. It may feel like we start with characterization and story before we even go to notes, words, interp, but that will define how we better include our audience in our performance and wrap them up in our story. Let's hear from Alyssa Ryman next. Alyssa lives in Vancouver, Washington, and has been a choreographer, production manager, tech expert, and assistant director. She's now a certified director and a member of the regional faculty. I think Alyssa's perspective and knowledge of creating audience appeal is valuable. Here she is.
So, Alyssa, thank you for joining me and sharing some of your thoughts with the region about the new visual communication category. I think it's really great to have your perspective as a coach and a choreographer, a newly certified director, things that are just so all about what we do and how we create our craft. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
I wanted to get your take on what you see as the differences between showmanship and now into visual communication, and if there's any kind of evolution that you see there.
I definitely see a difference. The old category, the showmanship category, focused more on what Sweet Adelines wanted to do. And that was to put a show on the stage, but it didn't really focus on the connection with the audience. And so I really, truly love this new category where it focuses more on that connection of storytelling with the audience and bringing them into that story and making them a part of your performance.
I love that. There's such a difference between focusing on yourself and your own performance and how you might be judged if it's a contest, and then just throwing yourself over to telling the story to an audience. Do you see anything that would be a hurdle of any kind for our performers as they move from one mindset to the other?
Yes, and the hurdle is the Sweet Adelines that have been in Sweet Adelines forever. They're so used to and now they have to focus more on the communication, the personal level. And so I think every time Sweet Adelines makes a change, there is a small hurdle to get over, and that is one of them I see at this point for this one.
Yeah. Any thoughts about activities or exercises or things that groups could do, pull themselves into that mindset?
Of course, there's always the physical warm-up aspect, and instead of having just one person up front doing the moves, I've learned from many different people, watching Erin Howden being one of them, that you got to include more of the group when it comes to leading. So assigning like 3 group little groups of 3 or 4 people, and each person in that group getting to lead a little portion of the song in their body movements, and kind of getting to trust the people in front of them, which is really kind of cool. And then moving to the music, the going through each song and going, why is this message important? So just going through each song, the opportunity of the ballad, and just say, hey, so why are we doing this? What's the story behind here? It doesn't always have to be the same story. It can be an individual story as long as it all lines up together.
Right. That's great coaching right there. It really is. That's a good mindset to have. As far as story goes, and would you learn the notes and words and then a story, or would you put the story before the notes and words? How would you introduce a song if you were the director?
If I was a director, I would probably do both at the same time. I think I've seen this done where we take a piece of music before we learn it, and you read it like a poem. What kind of feelings do you get with that? And I think you almost have to put them simultaneously together. You can't focus on one thing over the other, because what ends up happening is we get so focused on learning the words and the music that we forget there's a story behind it, and then it's harder to pick up the story. So I think it has to happen together. And I think that would actually help choruses and quartets move more into this visual category a little bit smoother.
I think I hear you saying the unity comes maybe not from the perfect moves or the exacting nature of the costuming or hair or makeup, but that it comes from the story instead.
Correct. I've been in different situations where I'm listening to groups that are so dressed up and they look so good on stage, but they're so dead in movement and facial and storytelling. Then there's those that are just in plain black dresses, or they look plain according to what Sweet Adelines do.
Right.
But they're so emotionally involved that you just don't see that. You just are tied into that story. So it's not about how glamorized you can get and how glamorized you can get your face to look with the smile and everything. It's about connecting to your audience. And that's where this lies.
Right. Very good. That's very wise. I like that a lot. I think that's giving me some food for thought, and hopefully other food for thought. Would you have any different advice for quartet and chorus?
I think the advice I would give for choruses and quartets is to trust each other. Trust each other to be vulnerable enough to just leap over that line and touch the audience's hearts and get them involved. You are not doing this for you. You are doing this for them. And just changing your mindset a little bit. I think that's the main advice I would give here.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. Well, I want to get to know you a little bit better from the random way of things, and I want the region to get to know you a little bit more randomly too. So okay. I'm going to ask a few rapid fire questions that your other interviewees have also answered, and see what your thoughts are on these very, very controversial topics. Okay. The first one is, let me find my notes here. There they are. What's your favorite competition day meal? Why?
The random meal, because every year it's different. Depends on what time you're competing, that you get to have lunch with different kinds of friends that you see about. So I think it's a random thing every year for me.
You're out and about on contest day. You're not hiding in your room. Sometimes I hide in my room and just eat my same sandwich. You like to get out and mix it up.
Yes.
Very nice. Awesome. Get that flow, that juice of friendship going. Awesome. Okay. Flats or heels?
Flats.
Flats. And favorite chorus riser placement for you, and why?
Front row, because I can move.
Is that because you need more elbow room, or you just like the energy?
I like the energy that feeds from behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Good to know. Favorite season and why?
Ooh, that's a hard one for me because I like all the seasons. Growing up in Maine, my favorite season was fall because I liked all the leaves and colors and everything. But yeah,
Really want to
out-
go. I've never been.
it's beautiful. But out here, I really love just as it's going into summer when the allergy stuff kind of settles down. It's super pretty and it's not too hot. It's just the perfect temperature.
Mm-hmm. And the bugs, they stay small. Don't get really big out in the Northwest, like
Yeah,
other parts of the country.
definitely.
Get really big bugs.
Yeah.
Favorite plant or flower?
I would have to say, as a previous flower designer, my favorite flower to work with happened to be the lily.
Ah,
But roses were also very fun to work with.
nice. Nice. So if you're walking along on a day and you want to treat yourself, you'll either go buy some roses or some lilies.
Yes,
Nice. They're very beautiful and both very fragrant too.
yes.
Favorite time of day?
Evening. I'm a night owl through and through.
I think I can attest to that, actually. And
Yep.
What's this other one? Oh, that's right. Naps on contest day.
No,
Important, useful, or no way, I'll just wake up cranky?
not important for me. Important for other people, but I am not a napper.
That's why every quartet needs 2 rooms.
But I'm also quiet and allow others to take their naps. So
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, Alyssa. It's very, very good to, again, let everybody get to know you and to get your input and take on the new category. If anybody has any questions, Alyssa's available
I am.
to talk to. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
That was some great food for thought from Alyssa. Our next conversation is with Paula Davis. Paula is a gemstone of knowledge, talent, and heart who arrived in our region a little over 5 years ago to direct Song of Seattle. She's a past international president, current member of the international board. She serves as expression judge and is the current judge specialist moderator for the Judge Specialist Committee. She's on regional and international faculty and has time to also be the bass of Touchstone Quartet. Paula's willingness to share her time and talent with us in the Northwest, as well as all of Sweet Adelines International, makes her a true ambassador of our craft. Let's hear what she has to say.
Paula, thank you so much for taking some time to discuss the new visual communication category. I think it's a really exciting time to be doing this, and I think you're going to be able to offer a little bit of, or quite a bit of insight into where this just might take us in the future. So I wanted to ask you, first off, what you saw as maybe the big 1 or 2 things that are really big changes between our previous showmanship and now visual communication.
Well, I think one of the big differences was just what the name reflects. It's not about us being showmen, it's about how we communicate to the audience. And in this category, we do it visually. In the expression category, we do it musically and lyrically. But in this category, it's visual communication. That's what it's all about. So consequently, that makes it more of an audience focus versus me as a performer focus. So while we used to be very concerned about exactly what we had on and exactly what our makeup looked like and our hair and did we get those moves exactly right, now it's going to be what is communicating to the audience. That's the real question.
Yeah. And do you see any, I know I saw a few different kinds of change in wording. Did anything spark your imagination when you read the new category of, wow, they're using that phrase a lot?
Well, I loved that authenticity has now made its way to the visual communication category. It's all over the expression category, but I'm very excited it's also in the visual communication. I love some of the new things that they brought to the forefront, like stagecraft and various things like that. But the authenticity really stuck out to me as an expression judge, because we've been the only one using that word, really. And now the showmanship category will as well. So that just really shows that we are evolving into a doing barbershop a little bit differently. It's not about us anymore. It's about reaching an audience with a message or a song or whatever it is that we're trying to give them.
Right. One thing I noticed as well reading through and wanted to get your a little deeper take on, I think, is where the place of characterization comes into the planning. Because I saw in the old category how literally the words were, once you have the lyrics in place and the notes and the interp in place, then throw character in. They didn't say throw, but add character. And now it seems reversed. So how do you see that same thing? And how do you think that's going to change our approach?
Well, I think it will, in the end, come out to be a more natural delivery, because before we were making choreographic decisions and characterization that had to fit in to the plan, the musical and lyrical plan. Now I think we need to develop them together. There needs to be conversations, because that characterization will affect the breath plan or the forward motion or all of that stuff. And so the way that'll affect the musical delivery, and the musical delivery affects the character. So they have to be done together, I think, to be really an authentic delivery of the message. I really hope that this new category rewrite, and maybe even because of what we've experienced in COVID, that we shift our focus a little bit. Competition is something that we do. It helps us know how to grow. But I think for most of us, what we really want is an audience. Now, it might be a regional audience, or it might be some other community audiences, or whatever it might be. The good part is, if you're really bringing your story and your character to the stage, your judges will like that as well. So I think we have an opportunity here to do a little bit of a reset, not to make competition less important, but to make it way more enjoyable for the audience and the performers, because it's so fulfilling when you actually take on that character and sell it, and your audience loves it. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be a character.
That's we need that on a t-shirt. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be a character. I like that. In that vein, can you think of any, I know you've taught classes on character and characterization and bringing the story into the song. Do you have any tips for either quartets or choruses for how to jump into the characterization of a song without falling into we all have to have the same story, or, that kind of thing?
I would encourage every ensemble the first thing they should do is to read the words like a conversation or a monologue that you're having with someone. But then to ask, what is the core human emotion that this song is about? And from that, we may not all have the same experience out of that emotion, but we have all experienced that emotion, whether it's disappointment or love or passion or fear or anything, whatever you, anticipation, anything, whatever emotion it is. And then you can build your own story if you know what the goal is at the end of the song. So you're experiencing this emotion of mystery, we'll say, or intrigue, or unease, maybe.
Right.
When you get to the end, what's the goal you want? So if you can agree on this emotion and you can agree on this end goal, the way that you take it and the pattern it will develop, and you can have your own story, because the specifics don't have to be the same, because we don't all have the same experience. And what allows it to be authentic is when it's really your story, that
Right.
you can tell it in a way that you've experienced it, or that that you have in your core. So share who you really are. That's probably the biggest challenge for most of us, is to be vulnerable and share who we really are, and find those core human emotions and where we've experienced them. And what we'll find is our music really helps us express those better than maybe we ever have, with
Right.
words we didn't know we had.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I hope everyone's taking note, because some multiple pearls of wisdom in there. I love it. Is there any final thought you have on that before I get on to my little rapid fire question, getting to know you better?
Just aim for authenticity. That's what touches people. We can enjoy a performance that's technically wonderful, and we'll applaud and be very excited and tell them they were great, but we are not moved or touched or changed by it. And it is certainly my goal, and I hope more and more, that our songs become more than a vehicle. They become a way to touch people, and then they won't forget us. So.
Right. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So now we're going to get to know you a little bit in just kind of a random way. I'm going to ask you a few little questions. It's take about a minute to do. And you can just tell me your first thought of what you think your answers are to these questions. So first one is, what is your favorite competition or performance day meal?
Well, if it's competition, I really like to have a good breakfast, and then I don't want anything after that until I sing, unless we sing really late. But I like to go a good number of hours without eating before I sing. So.
You get some good protein in the morning, and then just kind of let it ride.
I make sure I eat a good dinner the night before with protein, and then have a breakfast with, some protein and what I need there. But then water's good.
Yeah. Oh, good. Favorite riser placement for you when you're in the chorus, and why?
Middle with as a bass now. Somewhere in the middle. I like the first riser row or the first row, but I'll go anywhere in the middle, as long as I love a good tenor right in the center middle, that clear tone comes right across and so easy to tune to. So that's my favorite.
Awesome. That's good to know. Flats or heels?
These days it's flats. After I broke both feet, flats mainly.
Favorite season and why?
Do you know, when I lived in Texas, it was fall, because the heat was so oppressive to me. But since we moved away from Texas, I really think my favorite is spring. Watching that new life come out again and seeing the green and the little flowers.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, what is your favorite flower or plant?
I love irises and tulips.
Oh, so pretty. So pretty. And kind of short-lived. Although, do irises hang around for a while, or do they bloom in kind of in a quick little
A little,
flash?
not too long, maybe Well, up here, probably about the same length as a tulip. In Texas, tulips lasted 2 days. So, not that many people had tulips, and irises would last longer.
Uh-huh.
So they last a pretty long time up here because the weather's not so hot.
Right. Huh. Favorite time of day?
I have to say it's evening. I've tried for the last 30 years to learn to be a morning person, but I'm really not. I am a night person.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I still find that is when I'm most creative and most awake. So.
Right. We should have a Sweet Adelines International human study on everybody's favorite and most productive time of day and see what happens, see what the data says.
I really wish. I wish I was really productive in the morning, because then you're off at night. You can just chill. But I get up and I do things, but I'm not overly productive.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that same way too. The creativity doesn't hit right first thing of the day. And then your last one, it's the most important one and probably the most controversial.
Oh dear.
Naps on contest day. Good idea, helpful, or no way, I'll just wake up cranky?
I am not a nap person ever. I don't nap really, because then I never would go to bed at night. So no, I would never take a nap before a contest, but I do know of people that can do that because their energy just gets sapped before that time. Usually they're morning people and they got up at 5 and went out for a jog. And I think I sing with one of them too. And
Yes.
they deserve to have a nap.
Right.
And they wake up and they're ready to go.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Paula, thank you so much for sharing yourself, answering these silly questions, giving us your thoughts on the visual communication category. I think it's just going to be a great adventure. All of us and us in our region, I think we're going to have to stay in touch with each other and help each other out. Paula is available for that kind of advice and coaching. So I appreciate the time.
Anytime.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
What a great set of thoughts and perspectives from Judy and Sue, Alyssa and Paula. This just leaves me with one question, and that's how quickly will we all be able to shift our focus over into audience rapport and characterization and bringing the audience into our story more fully? It may sound easy, or it may sound exciting to envision becoming more theatrical and character driven, until we realize that a shift is going to happen in our thinking and our activities. I liken this to taking a leap of faith, or maybe just taking a flight of discovery. This flight of discovery happens between two locations: performance plateau and authenticity. There are a lot of thoughts and feelings that can interfere with our ability to change. We experience things like fear, mental blocks, self-judgment, disinterest. I mean, let's look at that. Fear just freezes us in place, and we don't want to move. And sometimes it's just an excuse not to. Self-judgment, you think, well, that's not how I define myself as a performer. I know what I always do when I get on stage. There's also mental blocks, which just really are another form of self-judgment, because what you're doing is really kind of judging the process in general. And lastly, just you might find that there are performers in your group that just are disinterested. And sometimes that's just a form of self-protection, because they don't want to look silly while trying something new. I would encourage that we honor each of those fears and blocks and judgments in that valley between staying happy with just the perfect performance and trying to take some risks and get over to authenticity through characterization and focusing on your stage presence and audience rapport. This will be an exercise that will take some time, and I think we need to honor the time that it's going to take. Our Zoom sessions are quite helpful right now to sort of step back, like Judy said, and work on those things we're maybe a little less comfortable with. My hope is that you have really gotten something out of this deeper dive into the visual communication category, and will try to push yourself into a touch of discomfort until we can meet again and be together and sing and try out all of our new and exciting skills. Thank you for spending your time and your day with me.